At 7:38 local time over the Persian Gulf, 2 U.S. F-18 Super Hornets were flying a combat air patrol between the American destroyer and Bandar Abbas Harbor when the Hawkeye called contacts. Low, slow, and headed right their way, Shade drones were lifting off the flight deck of a ship that was cosplaying as an aircraft carrier, the Iris Shade Berry. The pilots banked hard to intercept. They were about to shoot down every single one, but unknown to the pilots, that was exactly what Iran was counting on. The first F-18's FLIR, or forward-looking infrared, the thermal camera mounted on the nose you see here, picked up the Shahed at 11 mi, thermal smudge against warm water, radar cross-section of a shopping cart. He selected a sidewinder and waited for the tone. The seeker swept the drone's exhaust and gave him half a lock. The piston was the size of a lawnmower engine, putting out barely enough heat to distinguish it from the sun-warmed water behind it. Tone wavered, firmed, broke lock. He repositioned 30 degrees, trying to frame the exhaust against open sky instead of warm sea. Tone came back stronger. 2 seconds of solid track. The drone janked left on its pre-programmed route and the angle collapsed. Gone. 2 attempts. No shot. The Shahed was 10 minutes from reaching the line of destroyers protecting the carrier called the destroyer screen, the fleet's first and last wall of defense. And the missile seeker couldn't tell the drone apart from the warm water below it, which left the gun. And using the gun meant diving to 1,000 FT to chase a target, skimming the waves, nose pointed straight at Bandar Abbas and every anti-aircraft gun on the harbor wall. He rolled the jet over and pulled the nose down. 8,000 Dow F-18 6,000. 4. The waterfront filled the canopy. Cranes in the dark, shapes of anti-aircraft positions growing larger by the second. In the harbor, a Zu-23 gunner tracked the Americans' descent through his optical sight. A fighter diving to shoot called a strafing run. Then it had to fly straight at them, and a jet flying straight is a jet that's easy to hit. He cranked the elevation wheel, led the sight against the contact's nose, and opened fire. His partner on the second mount followed a half-second later. Tracers streaked up in arcs that looked lazy from altitude and stopped being lazy at $3,000 FT. The F-18 held the dive. Gun harmonization, the point where all the bullets converge on a single spot, was set at $1,000 FT. He was still above that, so the rounds would land low if he didn't aim higher. He corrected high and committed at 1 mile, half a second on the trigger. 20-millimeter rounds punched through the Shahed's airframe and tore the wing off. He hauled back on the stick and climbed through the tracers. 2 streams converging on the corridor he was pulling through. Each burst a coin toss. A 23-millimeter round cracked against the left intake housing. Engine instruments read normal on the climb out. Whatever it hit hadn't found anything that mattered yet. His wingman splashed 2 more on sidewinders. Better geometry, cooler background, 4 intercepts between the 2 jets. And every time they climbed back to altitude, the Hawkeye called new tracks departing from the same bearing. The Berry was cycling drones off the rail at 1-minute intervals, each one a 50-pound kamikaze aimed at the fleet with enough explosive to ruin a destroyer's radar array. Military equivalent of a dollar store trying to bankrupt Costco, 1 cheap product at a time. The flight lead checked his rails. 2 sidewinders left. His wingman had 3. 5 shots for a ship launching faster than they could shoot. Each sidewinder cost $400,000. Each Shahed cost $20,000. The Berry was winning the economics 20-1, and the Americans were paying premium prices to SWAT discount drones, and the Zu-23 crews were getting closer with every pass. Then they saw it. On board the ship were 8 anti-ship cruise missiles. If they didn't take out their targets soon, those American destroyers would have a lot more to worry about than swatting a few drones. Both jets carried 1 LRASM, long-range anti-ship missile, under the wing you see here. They were also the only aircraft between the fleet and the drones still airborne. 2 missions pulling opposite directions from the same 2 pilots. The flight split. Lead pushed north toward the Berry. Wingman stayed south alone with 2 sidewinders and a gun that put him inside the anti-aircraft envelope every time the seeker couldn't hold a lock. Inside the Barry's bridge, the captain tracked the split on his tactical display and understood the Americans' problem before they did. One fighter heading north meant one El-Arazam. His Morab surface-to-air missiles existed for exactly this, point defense against a single inbound weapon. The real question was the Southern fighter. As long as the American Combat Air Patrol stayed occupied chasing drones, his C-802 anti-ship cruise missiles had a clear path to the fleet and were fast enough to put a destroyer on the bottom of the Gulf. But firing them meant switching on the targeting radar, and every passive sensor in the coalition would pinpoint his position inside 3 seconds. It's like kicking a hornet's nest, then standing still to see what happens. Right now, the Barry ran dark, hiding in the electronic clutter of a harbor full of burning ships. Firing the C-802 traded that invisibility for 8 missiles in the air. And the math only worked if the Americans ran dry first. The lead descended through 30,000 FT. The El-Razam needed him below 20,000 for the delivery queue to solve cleanly through the smoke rising from Bandar Abbas, and every foot below 18,000 FT put him inside the Morab envelope. 8 short-range surface-to-air missiles on the Barry's deck, each needing 8 seconds of continuous track to fire. The kind of math that only works if nobody is shooting at you, which is exactly the kind of math military aviation never gets. 25,000. The Morab search radar swept his altitude and moved on. Somewhere below, the wingman was rolling into the Zu-23 envelope again. 5 shots between the fleet and a ship that launched drones like a pitching machine throws baseballs. Every 1,000 feet the lead descended brought the delivery queue closer to green and the Morab closer to a firing solution. The El-Razam needed him at $16,000 FT. The Morab could reach him at 17, almost 1,000 FT of airspace where both things were true at the same time. 23,000. The lead felt the search radar wash over the airframe again, a brief electronic tickle on the radar warning receiver, a system sniffing but not biting. At this altitude, the return was still too faint to hold. Another 2,000 FT, and that would change. The delivery queue on the heads-up display counted down like a fuel gauge running backward. The closer he got to release altitude, the closer he got to the SAM envelope, and neither number was negotiable. On the Barry, the Morab operator caught a return at 24 kilo. Faint. Smoke from burning ships painted false contacts across half his display. He filtered manually, held the contact for 2 seconds before it faded, 6 seconds short. He swept the sector and noticed the contact was lower than before, descending, coming to him. Then the Hawkeye cut in. One fast mover bearing 015 Mach 1.2 southbound, no friendly identification. The sky didn't give them enough to decide. Fighter-sized, supersonic, aimed at 2 nearly Winchester Super Hornets. A MiG-29 or a friendly with a damaged transponder. One trigger pull could be correct, or a disaster. The lead locked it. No maneuvering, no jamming, no evasive turn. A hostile pilot would react. A friendly with a broken transponder wouldn't know to. Unknown to him, it was a damaged FA-18 heading for a tanker. He slewed infrared. At 15 miles, the shape resolved. Twin tails. Hornet. He broke off and turned back. Those lost seconds opened a hole. 3 Shaheds slipped through. The wingman snapped south. 1 sidewinder left. He fired. Splash. Winchester on missiles, gun only. He dove again, caught one at 800 meters. Tracers rising, denser now. A 23mm round struck the fuselage. Hydraulic pressure dropped slightly. Controls heavier, still flyable. The lead took another from altitude. Nothing reached the fleet. The Barry kept launching. 16,000 FT delivery queue green. Radar lit him up, but too late. El-Razam away. Then a second. 2 autonomous weapons running their own war. They dropped low, silent, scanning. Inside the harbor, chaos. Fires, signals, electronic noise. The missiles filtered through it, ignoring distress signals, searching for a living warship. They found it. The Barry reduced emissions, trying to hide. But the missiles adapted, tracking subtle signatures, navigation radar, radio patterns. 8 kilometers out, the Marab operator tracked the inbound. Sea clutter confused the return. He locked, lost, reacquired, fired. The interceptor missed. The missile vanished in wave clutter at the critical moment. Below, the wingman made one last pass. Tracers formed a wall ahead of him. He flew through it and destroyed the drone. The lead finished the last target from above. Nothing reached the fleet. On the Barry, the captain made his move. Radar on. Targeting sequence started. 3 seconds to launch. But the LRASM was already there. 4 seconds to impact. A gunner spotted it visually. Just a streak over the waves. Fired blindly. Missed. The first missile struck the forward section. The second hit at the waterline. The ship tilted. Launch angle lost. The C-802s never fired. The converted vessel, never built for this kind of war, flooded rapidly. The fight was over.